Welcome to this video on Introduction to DesignLights Consortium. We'll look at the DesignLights Consortium's mission and history, and then we'll discuss the qualified products list for network lighting controls. We'll have a demonstration showing filters, some examples of searches, and we'll look at the search results. Following all that, there will be a page that will explain how to access the DLC qualified products list for their systems. The DLC's mission is as follows. It's a nonprofit organization, and they're here to improve energy efficiency, mostly through lighting. The way that the DesignLights Consortium works is that they create these qualified products lists of various types of products. And utilities, electric utilities around the country, typically refer to those so that in order to pay incentives on energy efficient products like lighting and controls, they say that a product has to be on the DLC's qualified products list. So it's an important resource to use. I'm going to walk you through dealing with the DesignLights Consortium qualified products list for network lighting control systems. So the first thing to do is to open up a browser and type into the search window, DesignLights, all one word, DesignLights.org, and hit enter. So here is the main DesignLights Consortium splash screen. And I'm going to click on My DLC up on the upper right. And that's because in order to access some things like the qualified products list, you have to actually have an account. So it's free, but if you don't have an account already, you'll have to create one. I already have an account, so I have my login credentials. So I'm going to fill that in. And then the website will log me in. And it takes a little while. Just talking to the server, and here we are. I'm in the website. So down at the bottom, you notice it says create an account. I've already done that. I can X out of that. Accept cookies. Yes, that's all the standard stuff. Now, on the main DLC page here, you'll see lots and lots of different things. Just so you're aware, there are lots of resources available on the DesignLights Consortium's website that you might be interested in. For example, reports and research, technical resources, how-to guides, on-demand webinars. So there's actually a lot of interesting things there, but what we're looking for are the qualified products lists, and that's under Find Products. So I'll click on that, and you'll notice that there are 4 possibilities. There are separate qualified products lists depending on what you're looking for. So there's SSL or solid state lighting. That means LED fixtures. Hort means horticultural. Luna actually is for exterior fixtures. And then, of course, NLC is for network lighting controls. So we're looking for that. We'll click on that. And in a minute, that will pop up on the screen. So now we're actually looking at the database, and this is live, so we can interact with it. So to start with, notice that on the upper right, you'll see that it says viewing 1 to 25 of 67 results over 3 pages. Before I forget, let me mention that there are not actually 67 different systems on the list. The very first entry you'll notice is Light Logic. You'll notice that it's actually repeated. And when you look at each line, you'll notice that the first one is listed as exterior scope, structured parking, building exterior parking, street light, etc., etc. The second line item is the same system, but it's listed for use in interior spaces, rooms or zones, potentially structured parking. Some of the other ones can even be whole building and so forth. So it's actually the same system in most cases, but for some reason the DesignLights Consortium makes manufacturers register it as each. So it means that there are actually fewer than 67 systems on the list. You'll also notice, by the way, that the list is not presented alphabetically. I'm not sure why that's the case, but unfortunately, it's not alphabetical. On the left side are all of the potential filters that we can use to narrow the search results. If we knew that there was a specific system and we wanted to get information on a specific system, we could actually click on that. For example, I'll click on, let me pick an interesting one here that might have more than one possibility. So for example, if I were to click on Lutron Electronics and I didn't specify a specific brand, you'll notice that 3 different systems come up because they make 3 different kinds of network lighting control systems that are on the list, and they're different. And if you clicked on these and looked at details, you would see that. So what we're going to do instead is to uncheck that and to collapse these categories, because typically the way you would use this is to filter based on specific things that you want the system to do or features that you want it to have, and then come up with a short list of systems that will meet your needs. So the very first one that I'll click on is under ease of implementation. And the first option here is clearly pretty popular because 46 of the 67 systems meet this criterion. It actually says that an installation contractor with less than 1 day of training could actually install and commission these. That's pretty cool, huh? So let's click on that, and we should see this change from 67 to 46, and we did. There we go. We have a short list now. Let's do some other things. The technical requirements version category on the left side, if you notice, only has one option. That's for version 5.0 because that's the current version, and any system has to meet that in order to get on the list. So that's why it says 67 here. So since we know that every system meets it, we don't really need to check on that as a criterion. We'll collapse it. Let's open up interior scope. And if you notice, there are a bunch of possibilities for what the system could be geared to deal with in terms of the amount of space, whether it's just one room or zone, an entire building, an entire campus, even structured parking. So you can see that because these numbers don't total 67, they total way more than 67. It means that there are systems that can do 2 or more of these. So you may have to be specific and click on what you're looking for. Instead of that, I'm going to, we'll click on whole building just for the heck of it. And in fact, that narrowed down the results to 18. So if we want a system that can handle the load in an entire building, then that filter is telling us that a fairly small number of the 67 total can do that, only 18. Okay, there we go. We had interior scope. What else could we filter for? How about advanced capabilities? There are lots of possibilities in here. There are very specific features here, some of which you may want or need on your project. Color tuning, demand response, integration with backnet systems, which is usually HVAC. If you notice, cybersecurity is showing that all 67 systems meet that. And the reason is that, again, that's a requirement for the system to get on the list, so there's no need for us to check it. I'll click on demand response. Looks like 39 of the systems have demand response function. We've just narrowed down the list from 18 to 11 systems. So we're narrowing and narrowing and narrowing. Now, let's go down a little more. Let's look at user interface. So I'm going to click on something here that's a very powerful feature that many of the systems have, which is scenes. This would actually mean that you can create what we call a preset scene. So lights go to specified levels, And that can be very useful for a whole variety of reasons. So I'm going to click on that. And when I go back to the top, I see that that decreased our shortlist from 11 to 10 different line items. So one of those doesn't have the ability to use scenes. Let's continue. Integral controls. LLLC stands for luminaire level lighting controls. That means that every single fixture has its own integral controller that turns the fixture on and off and also sends a dimming signal to it. But it also has two sensors. What are those? Occupancy sensor and photo sensor. So many of the systems have options to provide LLLC controls, but I'll click on that and let's see what happens. Okay, we went down from 10 to 9. All right, interesting. Let's continue. Let's open up wired versus wireless. So let's say we want to use a wireless system, and it looks like almost all of the systems can be used in a wireless version. I'll click on that. Okay, we're still at 9. So all of those features can be found in the 9 systems. All of those can be wireless systems. Just for the heck of it, I'm going to uncheck wireless. And instead, I'm going to say, hey, let's assume that it has to be a wired system instead. And if it has to be a wired system, then I'm going to leave wireless unchecked and I'll click on wired. And let's see where we stand now. Well, it turns out that it's saying only one of those 9 systems with all of those features that we want actually can be used in a wired version. Now, just so you know, it looks kind of funny because the actual name of the system is Wavelengths Wireless Connected Lighting. That only means that this system is designed to be used in either a wireless or a wired version. And that's why it's good that we have these opportunities to filter for exactly what we want. Because if we're really specific and we say it has to be wired, well, okay, I can click on this and verify and check with the manufacturer that yes, sure enough, it's available in a wired version. And I guarantee it is. I know that for a fact. Okay, so that's interesting. I want to point something out. Let's uncheck that for a moment. And we're going to go back to our 9 results so that it doesn't matter whether it's wired or wireless. We'll just stop where we were before we clicked on wireless. I want to point out an unusual quirk of the database that exists right now. And that is that the way that the DLC coded this is that they generally use the Boolean OR function. However, if you check on 2 or more items within a specific category, and we'll take advanced capabilities, and let's say that we decide that we also want color tuning. We just went up from 9 results, 9 systems, to 14. The reason is that they used the Boolean AND function instead of the Boolean OR function. That's going to potentially return a greater number, which I've never personally seen used in a database with filtering, because the whole idea of filtering is that every additional filter you provide should narrow the list, but it didn't happen here. I've had discussions with DLC about this issue, and I don't know where they stand in terms of changing this in the coding, so you would probably have to ask them. So just be aware of that, and I'll uncheck color tuning again. We're back to our 9 results instead of the 14. And again, I'm going to go down and I'm going to click on wired. And even though the name of this product includes wireless, in fact, it should also work as a wired system. Now, the next thing I'd like to show you is that I'm going to click on this line item. Happens to be the only one in our shortlist, which is convenient. And if I click on that, a summary page opens with lots of detailed information. Every single one of these will have a link to a website, Oftentimes, they'll also have a link to a page for technical support or a phone number. You'll notice that the standard warranty is 5 years. I believe that's actually a requirement to get on the list. And then you'll notice on the right side that there's a whole bunch of individual things for which you might want to get more detailed information. And if I were to click on any of these, they'll open up this section below for that. For example, networking. If you notice, there's some very useful pieces of information here, such as maximum devices per on-site system or per specific network. You may have to contact the manufacturer to check and make sure that you know exactly what they mean by that, because different manufacturers may have interpreted that differently. I can also click on these in the gray boxes, and if I do that, that also opens up the information for that. And you'll notice that there's a lot of very detailed information. I won't go and read all of these through, but there's lots and lots and lots of very, very detailed information. So lastly, what I'd like to show you, I'll close this. And if I go back to our database where we've put in our filtering, and I click on Save Search Criteria on the upper left, I can actually save this criteria as a specific name. So I'll say DOD 3-20-24, which is today's date, and I'll save it. And there we go. Now we have that on the list. So in the future, I could simply open that instead of having to guess at which filters I actually checked on. And in fact, I'll uncheck all of these and let's see if that works. So uncheck all of these filters, uncheck all of the filters. We should be back to 67. Okay, I clearly didn't uncheck every single filter. Which one did I not uncheck? Scenes. Here we go. Okay, we're back to 67. So I've completely cleared the filters. If I go back and say View Saved Searches, I can either click on the first one or click on Open, and it should open that back up. And here you go. It's showing the filters that I had already clicked on, and it's showing that result. So that works very well. So there's lots of detailed information in here, but it's a pretty good way in a short period of time to come up with a short list based on specific filters that you'd like to enter. So that's a pretty good tool for you guys to use to figure out which systems you might want to get more information on for your project. And then, of course, when you're finished, just make sure to log out, and then you should be good to go. To access the DesignLights Consortium's qualified products list, you have to go to their website, designlights.org, and then this process explains how to get access. You need to create a free account because they want to know who you are, and then you can click on Find Products and click on the NLC QPL. You can also access other things like the technical requirements and other studies and so forth. Thank you for watching this video on Introduction to DesignLights Consortium.